Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, Reeling in Holistic Health, where we care about your mental health and well being. I'm your host, Coach Rice, and I want to make sure that you tune in every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where I have my special guest on to talk about real issues that matter most. I want you to check us out on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Business Facebook page, also on the Be Awesome Network. Stay tuned. I think you're going to really like this next guest. Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am your host, Coach Rice, and with me today I have David Allen Brown. He is a writer and a speaker. So David, tell us where you're from and how did you embark upon being a speaker and a writer?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of those things you just wake up one of those days or it happened
Right.
naturally, or we just have this urge to sort of share what we know and we figure out a way to do it. I'm thrilled to be with you today. I'm talking to you from New York City right now, where I currently
Oh,
live for the last year. But I spent most of my life in Indiana, in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I have that sort of Midwestern bit to me. But now
okay.
I'm doing the big city for just a lot of fun and living the most every day. So, um, you know, how did you? It kind of is what I was sort of joking, but I became a leadership geek as a student. Like even in school, other kids were going to soccer camp or to cheerleading camp or to
Mhm.
math camp. I went to leadership camp. Like I'm not kidding. Like between my junior and senior years of high school, I went to one that was sponsored by Indiana University, one that was sponsored by the Red Cross, one that was sponsored by
Mm.
another nonprofit. All leadership. Like how and it's great because most of them were like, okay, we'll get these young people to go back into their communities and do cool stuff, which we did. But what I came to quickly learn was, well, this is just people making stuff. This is like, how do you recognize the awesomeness in people and how do you see it in yourself and believe in it and then start to communicate it and interact in a way where people just feel very empowered and feel strong and know that they have what it takes to make a difference in their own lives and others. So as I started to do that more and more after college, then I would develop workshops. I was working for nonprofits that were developing leaders. I was showing up places. People asked me to speak, mostly to young people, but then, oh, well, do you speak to college age people? Oh, sure. Oh, well, what about adults? We have this volunteer group. Like, oh, sure. So I would show up wherever people wanted to sort of hear my message. And then eventually people are like, well, do you have a book? And so I got a book. And so I've been doing it for a long time now. And now I've started a new direction that's really about kind of my life's work, putting it all together.
So what message are you wanting to give people
Mm.
out of your writing?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it really comes from two places. The overarching message is that we're here for a reason, and that when we deny that, or whether that's on purpose, like, oh, I don't want to engage, or subliminally, like, oh, I'm not really important. Either way, we're missing the point, which is the universe really needs you. Really, where you are and the place that you are and the people that you're coming in contact with, both in known relationships and in the perchance ones, they're all there for a reason. And us showing up as our most awesome, I don't know, most amazing, most powerful, I mean, let's get to it, most loving self is really the point. And it's hard. That's the other side. So one is, okay, here's the grand scheme of it. The other side
Right.
of it is, yeah, and we're human beings. And things are difficult. And sometimes we worry about rent, and sometimes we don't feel so great. And sometimes our emotions get a little out of whack. And sometimes we
Yes.
forget to invite a higher power into our thinking. And so it takes practice. It takes awareness and it takes some work. And so both things are true. Like, you're amazing. And it's hard to be amazing all the time. So we got you. We got your back, and we love you when you're maybe at 20% or 60% or 80%. And we're so glad that you're trying as much as you can.
It is hard to be amazing and it really is, right? And so you really have this heart to help people find a purpose. How did you find yours?
I found mine in the faces of others, which is an interesting way to approach it because to some degree we're kind of taught, oh, what other people think about you doesn't matter. And the fact is that what they thought about me didn't matter as much as how I could see and experience when something real was going on. Now, sometimes
Mm,
that might be an emotional connection, like falling in love. Sometimes it might be a wonderful interpersonal connection, like becoming a friend. Sometimes it might be someone who was in a class of mine who I could see the aha moment. I could see a little spark in their eyes. Sometimes it
okay.
might be a stranger that I performed a kindness for or did one for me. And it's one of those things that you just remember as you go through your day. It's in the faces of other people. And really, when I struggled in my life, and I think back about the times when it's been especially difficult, I realized how isolated and alone and how, and sometimes not, those are kind of harsh words. Sometimes in the most positive way, I thought I was independent and strong and could do it all myself. And however that came to me, looking back, I realized, oh, no, that's when I was out of sync and struggling, and it was really hard. So, I mean, full circle, it's in the faces of others, which means I have to be interacting with others in order for it to work.
That is important, right? And most people don't think it's important to interact with others. They isolate.
Well, yeah, and we get trained, don't we, in our culture to be pretty wary of others, and to
Yes.
make sure you know where you're safe and what might their intentions be, and are you sure, and this and that, and some of that. I was about to say some of that is justified, and I think that some of it is, but I think maybe it's a much, much smaller percentage than what we sometimes take on. And one of the things that I've discovered, not 100% of the time, is that when I'm vulnerable and when I'm showing up in that presence, that even if something doesn't happen the way I thought it would, that I can still get a reflection back of something that says I was in the right place at the right time, being the best me I could at that time. And so life lived today, check.
And so you have tell us about book, the books or the book that you wrote.
Well, so I have three books,
Okay.
and they've kind of evolved. And so the first one I wrote when I was in my 20s. It's about a spiritual doctrine called A Course in Miracles. It's kind of progressive, new thought, and it's very academic. I like it, but I read it back nowadays, and I'm like, man, I was really trying to sound pretty smart there because it's like, here's all this theory, and here's how the kind of all this stuff works, and isn't it interesting how to play? Okay, it's not bad. I like the premise of it, which is that, it's called the self-help paradox. And my
Okay.
frustration was you go into a bookstore, pretty much find any self-help book, tells you whatever it is you want to believe. And it's like, well, what am I really supposed to do? So I took some of those contradictions and I sort of
Okay.
worked through them. Like, for example, one would be uh, if I want something to happen, am I supposed to vision it out in every detail in order to manifest it, or am I supposed to just let it go and trust the universe that it'll come to me? Like there are different perspectives on something like that.
Right.
So it was fun, and I like it, and I certainly recommend it. You could probably find it somewhere in the world. That was good. Then the second book came along about 8 years later because my mom was diagnosed with leukemia.
Okay.
And so we went through the journey of her experience and her hospitalization and all of that. And everything that was theoretical in my life before, what I believed in higher power, what I thought prayer was for, what I thought about the energy dynamics in a room, what I thought about loving and caring for someone who was ailing and giving of myself and receiving support as a son of the pain. All that was real. And so that second
Mm,
book was Answer the Call, What to Do When Spirit Arrives to Transform Your Life. And that's an ebook. I know it's available. And that is, hey, what I was just saying, this is hard sometimes. Things come along.
right.
And it was suddenly this amazing ability to see that, oh, all of these things that I knew were out there, this stuff really works. Like, you know.
Okay.
And so, I'm really proud of that book, and it really shows a real life application of living fully and trusting in love and building community and those types of things.
Okay.
My most recent thing is kind of a culmination that's come after being a stay-at-home dad, going through some mental health struggles, going through divorce, rediscovering myself, remembering who I was, remembering some of the things. Anyway, big compilation of, but how does this really work? And this is an
Okay.
online course called Convergence. People
Okay.
can sign up for to go through it in their own. There's videos and slideshows that I talk about, and then there's lots of exercises where it's very, very experiential. And it's designed to help people understand the very practical, both day to day and in a bigger scheme, tools that we have that we could put into use in any instance to help
Hmm.
us regulate, understand, make decisions, find center, set goals, move forward, and support ourselves as humans. There's this great,
Okay.
sometimes people used to like to use this phrase, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Have you ever heard this
Right.
before? Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
You know, I came to a point in my old age, no, in my 50s, where I was like, you know what? A lot of days I just feel like a human being trying to have a spiritual experience. And so what do I do when this body, this experience, this place, this money system I work in, this family I'm a part, when the real stuff of
Right.
life is happening, how do I integrate that into? And so it became a real sense of self-discovery because I realized there were times when I was stuck in some of those places, including being too spiritual or being too human or being too emotional. And then realizing, oh, all of these things can work together in this really magical, wonderful way.
Right. And so the convergence framework that you do
Right.
is in your book, and you have a course. Do you offer the course, or is that part of the book, or how does that work?
So Convergence is just an online thing. It's not an actual printed book. And the
Got it.
good
Okay.
news
Okay.
is you sign up and there's a full on like
Oh, it's just
master's
it's the
course that is
online
it's
course. Okay.
online. You go through my website
Got
and
it.
you find it but you also become part of a community. We do meetings regularly. We talk about what it is we're working on, where we're struggling. I do a little sort of additional teaching type of stuff, but that whole thing is online and there's different versions of it. People can go through and they certainly email me if they have questions about it.
Okay. So what does, as we talk about this, when you have a challenge in your life, what is the most common sentence you say to yourself to get through the challenge?
Mm, that's such a great question. What's the most common sentence I say to myself? Lately, because I write things on my windows, reminders. So one of the most common is "be here now," and that helps take all this magical thinking, both either positive or this doomsday thinking that's not, and like, okay, what's really real?
Right.
Because
Be in the
sometimes,
present.
right, sometimes my body is responding to things. Sometimes it's truly, just a chemical react. Like, okay, let's just get centered. But I'll tell you the other one that's really been amazing for me lately is I'm here. And what that has meant for me, I've realized that of the and just a little context there, for me, there's three voices. There's three sort of inputs. I call them voices because I'm so verbal. And so one is the emotional, kind of the root self of who this body is. One is the doing self, like who we are in this world that we exist in, the things that we actually do. And then
Mhm.
one is the higher self, higher power, however you and your listeners define it. I'm not starting to
Right.
preach here. It's like whatever's working. I found that I struggled with inviting in, because that's what I really believe it is, it's a partnership, inviting in higher power. And I really was working on a mantra lately that just helped me remember to bring that voice into play. Because it's so easy sometimes to, well, not, it became easier for me. It wasn't always easy to have this emotional reaction, to realize, oh, I'm knee
Yes.
jerking.
Yes.
And then we live in a world that's always about, well, then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I very much got caught in those for a while. And I found that the answer consistently, like the whole conversation, the agreement, the convergence doesn't work if higher power isn't there. And so I really came up with something. How do I continue to remind myself? And so the one I've been working on is I'm here. And that's the voice of higher power. It's not, it's, and the reason it's I is because I believe in the great I am, because I believe in the integrated
Right.
self with higher power. And so it wasn't a, hey, are you out there type of thing. It wasn't
You
a, should I
recognize his
say a prayer and
presence is
send it
with
off?
you.
I wanted it to be something that was like, wait, I'm here, which means all of me, all of my emotions, all of my actions, and all of my spiritual intuit, all of my greater, bigger self. I'm here. I'm here. And that, thanks a lot, because then kind of I know how to enter into the conversation from there. That's just a centering moment. Like, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here. And it just, and that tends to be a place to start.
I definitely can relate to um your nervous system being interrupted and you have to center yourself. In the mornings, I do that breathing exercise. And when I'm
I
doing my
love it.
breathing exercises, I
Mm.
say to myself, I'm safe because God
Mhm.
is with me. I'm safe because He's getting ready to, I do that because it's telling my nervous system I'm safe because the
Yeah.
nervous system can be out of sync.
Yes. And I've had that experience too, and consistently for a while during great transitions in my life. Waking up anxious is a remarkably like disorienting thing. Like, because
Yes, it
part of what it
is.
does is it reminded me how much was going on in my subconscious. Like,
Yes.
I'm literally in bed. I've been doing nothing for between 6 and 8 hours, and I've woken up in this state. And it really
Yes.
raised my awareness of how much physiology is involved here. And I love what you're expressing. Okay, so when you recognize that, okay, what tool do you have? Breathing is such a good one to get yourself, even before you stand up.
And I practice it because it helps me to keep my skill set going because breathing is a skill set.
Yes, it is.
And so it instead of picking up my phone, which is going to put me at my nervous system in a movement mode when I'm trying to center.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't want to touch the phone until I center myself and get my, devotion in it. Then we can, now it's.
Yes, you're describing exactly what I'm saying, which is this sense
Right.
of, okay, so I've woken up emotional, and the first thing I did was take some sort of action, like either hop out of bed or pick up my phone,
Oh
without bringing
God, you
in
are.
the third voice, which, okay, what's centering? Like, that's the whole point of the course, is that the more
Awesome.
we can operate from that balanced place, then the
Hmm.
more actualized our life will be, and we'll be matching what I said at the very beginning, which is showing up as our best and most loving self. And so I love that example because so many people, I mean, people are like, well, how do I know? How do I know? Well, if you're waking up anxious and you're taking action before you center, that would be one way to know. And so that's a perfect example.
And it's interesting because it sounds like the convergence work dealing with your inner voice,
Yeah.
so to speak, right? Let me ask you this question. It's a fun one.
Yeah. Good.
If your inner voice became your life coach, how would it help you grow?
Yeah. Right. No, my
And,
inner voice, the only trick
and
here is
how would it
between what
help?
you're,
How would it and or how would it hold you back?
sure. Because this is exactly the point. See, with this program, it's not one voice, it's the three voices. And they
Okay.
are my life coaches. And that's the thing. Where I have faltered before is when I thought one was more important than the other, that the
Okay.
doing was more important than the feeling, or that the feeling didn't need to have any sort of reassurance from higher power, or that I could do things out of my intellect without realizing that my body was freaking out because it wasn't the right thing to do, or I could do things without motivation because I didn't think I needed inspiration, capital I inspiration, in order to be present on this planet. So that's what convergence is. So these voices, it's a little committee, and sometimes it gets confusing. I mean, I'll give you that.
I call it a boardroom, and
Exact right. But this notion
I'm
that, oh,
having a
I should be
board
one
I'm having a
thing. We're
board
not
meeting
one
with
thing. We're so many
that's what I
things.
call it. I'm having a
Yes,
board meeting with myself.
that's right. Let's have a little committee here. And the amazing thing is that so the way the when they agree, there's a there's a sense that comes over, and and I've tried to write about what it is, or describe what it is. It's just what you just know. Like there's just a confidence and a strength and a enthusiasm that when those voices agree, you're like, oh, right. This is what I'll do now. This is how I can resolve. This is how I can find peace. This is how I can be loving. This is how I can seek the next step, in my career, in my life, or in that relationship, etc. It's that convergence is how they let me go. What holds me back is when one of them has some sort of silly notion and feels like nobody else's opinion cares. And I speak about like nobody else in my head matters.
Right.
And so we're just gonna. Can I just tell you this? I've been dying to tell somebody this story because this just happened to me the other day, and it was the fastest convergence has ever worked for me. And so I'm
Okay.
so excited about it. And so I
So
just
tell
want
it.
to share it. And you can cut it out if you want to. Here it is. People are
No,
like, how does
tell
that work? And I have big, long stories about it. Nope, this is how it worked the other day. It was just so beautiful. I was like, oh, nice job, everybody. I patted them all on the back. So I have, let's say, I don't want to I want to tell the whole story. So, okay, I have a love interest in Miami. All right. I'm in New York City. And I love this person without end. And it's a terrible relationship. Can't work, isn't good for me. It shouldn't happen. I know that already. You with me so far? I don't know
Okay.
if anybody or you
Hmm.
listeners have
I'm
any of
with you
this
on that.
situation, loving someone, but it's not going to work out.
Right.
Got it so far? Okay.
Got it so far. I'm with you.
A friend has invited me to go on a cruise in June, and it goes out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which many of you people might know is about 20 miles north of Miami. Any side of me, the do side, gets this bright idea. I know. Let's reach out to so and so while we're in Fort Lauderdale. Hey, maybe that'll work. And my emotional side said, are you insane? What are you talking about? That's crazy. Like, and freaked out. And so now part of me is getting real defensive. Well, I thought maybe aren't we over that yet? And no, we're not over that, blah, blah, blah. So in comes inspiration, the voice of reason and calm says, okay, first of all, there is still love present. We're fine. Second of all, nobody's doing anything yet. And third of all, emotion, what do you like? Tell me. Like, just take some space. And I took a breath and out came, it feels disrespectful. And action said, what do you mean? And there was the emotional side said, you know how there's self-respect? This
Yes.
feels self-disrespectful. I feel
Okay.
disrespected that you would want to put me back in this situation with this person again. And higher power said, well, that's not what we want for ourselves, is it? What do we want? And I said, well, what I want to be is to be perpetuating love as much as I can. And the answer was, well, it doesn't sound like you would be perpetuating love to follow through on this suggestion. And the doing side sort of said, yeah, you're right. I want to be a loving presence, not be in danger either. And so all of this happened in my head in about a minute. And all of a sudden, we all said, well, of course, we're not going to reach out to so and so. And it was lovely that that relation happened. And I'm so glad that I can love them from afar. And that's the best way to love them. And so here we are back being the loving being we wanted to be. Thank you very much. What's next on today's agenda? But it happened that fast. An emotional reaction, seeking truth in that emotional reaction, an understanding from the doing side, and an agreement on, right, not only are we not going to do that, but here's why we're not going to do that. And the result of not doing that is going to be us being a loving person. Win, win, win. Let's move on.
It's interesting how powerful agreement is
Yeah,
and
yeah,
alignment,
right.
the
Yeah,
power of alignment.
you bet. And don't think that my subconscious or whatever that silly part over there isn't going, yeah, but aren't you like, we had a really good time. Are you sure? Like, oh, yeah, the question keeps getting asked. But there's such confidence now but a decision has been made and we know why we made that decision. And so here we go. Like, Respect yourself. And it's not even like, I don't know if I want to do that because, but we did have fun and yeah, maybe we'll see. It's like, wait, do you want to respect yourself? That's a core value of yours. When the decision
Yes.
is made on that level, instead of being left to Mr. Flippy Floppy over here, who thinks, well, I don't know, what if I happen to dial their number while we're down? No, we aren't, none of that's going to happen because fundamentally, on a core belief of ours, that all three parts of me agree on, which is we're going to respect ourselves. This decision has been made. And that's really what convergence is. What are your core beliefs? How do you recognize how the three parts of you support each other in maintaining those core beliefs? And then how do you move forward with confidence because you're honoring yourself? And that self includes higher power, which means you're also honoring your place in the universe, honoring God, honoring what you're going to do today, showing up as a loving, caring being.
So it's really tearing down negative self-talk big time. Like,
You know what, and it's replacing it. It's
okay,
because
okay.
I think that's maybe sometimes where we slip when we're doing work. And I was talking with a friend of mine even this morning about that sense of, they were telling me a story, and then all of a sudden it was, I'm such an idiot. And I was like, whoa, ho, 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 where did we get from things didn't work out to you're an idiot? And so rather than just cancel clear that, it was sort of we went back and said, did you do your best at this point? Did you do your best at this point? Did you do your best at this point? Oh, and then something completely unrelated and it didn't turn out the way you thought it would. Where in there is an idiot? That's somebody trying really hard and doing the best they can and believing in themselves and then got sideswiped by an outside thing. So I think that it's
So
not
you're replacing it with truth.
with yes. There it is. There it is. Yes.
And
And
once you replace
sometimes,
it with truth, all can
absolutely.
agree.
And dear listeners, we know there are blocks to our
Right.
truth. We know they come from our childhood or from what happened yesterday
Mhm.
or from waking up angry. We know they're there. And that's why
Got
it's
it.
hard sometimes. So we develop these tools that allow us to get back to truth. I love that, Martha. Yes, that's exactly it.
I love it. So when they how, so when they go to your site, sign up for the course, how long is the course?
Well, we have a few different options now. I
Okay.
published a big giant like university course, like 7 modules at three
Okay.
hours and 30 work. You can do that if you want to dive right in. But then we realized that some people were like, I got stuff. And so we made a quick start program, which is less than an hour, has five of my very best activities in it, and it's just an introduction to what it all is, gets you involved in the community that we're part of and allows us to interact. It's much shorter, much cheaper too. I also took now the last module of the big course is about manifestation. So not merely these day to day managing your lives, but okay, how do I create what I want to create? So that's really amazing and lots of context if you do it part of the full course. But then we also pulled that out and made it its own standalone. And it works really well. I think it's very, very practical. Did away with a lot of the magic thinking of, oh, if I just dream it, it'll show up. Nope, these are practical how-tos to use the resources that we have, the quote unquote voices in our head, but then also dive into like, let's make stuff happen here. And so I'm really proud that's there too.
Okay. And so before we wrap it up, what piece of advice would you give the audience?
I think one of the things that turned me around from dark places and struggle and strife,
Mhm.
recognizing that so much of that was happening because my emotional side had been neglected for so long, and then beginning to experience and live again, including my emotional realm. Okay, all of that's prep. Here's the advice. What I let go of was judging how I was feeling, embracing it instead, and allowing it to guide me where I was supposed to go next. See, I grew up in a household where anger was not okay. And part of that because it was modeled as destructive and difficult and frustrating, and conflict was to be avoided, for example.
Oh my goodness. So you must have been full of rage.
And so later in my adult life, when I finally got back in touch with my feelings and something occurred in the course of a divorce where these types of things happen, it was an attorney's fault that got me enraged. And I literally had to call people and say, "What do you do? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm furious. What do you do?" And I learned instead of saying, "Well, don't feel that way," one of the greatest gifts I received from a friend who heard my story and said, "Anger is the appropriate response in this situation." I was like, "Bless you," because no one's ever told me that anger was okay before. And so
Mm.
this release of, oh, I shouldn't be sad, I shouldn't be angry, I shouldn't be frustrated, I shouldn't be happy,
All the
I,
shoulds.
I should, yeah, right. All this judgment. Instead, I recognized anger as a gift that motivates. Frustration is often a gift that helps us overcome injustice. Joy is a gift that inspires us to do the next thing. Peace is a gift that gives us time to restructure and have conversations and think about what's next. The entire range of emotions are gifts that lead us to what is next, so long as we experience them and explore them and then take them forth. For years, what I did was say, nope, can't do that, won't do that, shouldn't do that. So my advice would be to get past all of that. Feel what you're feeling and then integrate it into a thoughtful examination wrapped in the love of God that says, get through this because we are eager for you to use it in service of the world. We need you.
Yeah. That's so the convergent framework is a great way to do that. I see, because you really, when we really talk, if let me make sure I'm really understanding it correctly, because convergence to me mean you're coming together to meet at one point.
Well, yeah. And when that agreement comes, it's just,
Right.
it does both. It creates this wonderful calm, but it creates
A
this
wonderful
space.
partnership, right?
Yes. And this space where we step into it. See, part of it was I felt like, oh, I'm to this place, which means I'm done. I mean, oh,
Right.
that means I'm done. I'm seceded. Now I can be the wise man on the top of the mountain. And then my kids would be like, we gotta get to school. I'm like, oh, right. I'm not done. I got stuff to do today, you know. And so that's the point. Yes, we're trying to find that place that where
That's
the
awesome.
agreement just makes life work. And it does. I'm a testament to it.
That's some pretty good framework, actually. In the language, you could put it in, the language that means something to you,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
great. So I really I like that. I've heard of it before, and I think it's great to have someone that do that. So
Oh,
I would
thank you.
definitely put your link in the video where
Fantastic.
they can actually join the course.
Yeah. And reach
And
out to me if anybody has a question about the cost or needs a coupon or a scholarship. Okay, I'm a teacher. How did I become a teacher, a speaker, and a writer? Because I kept seeing in people's faces that it worked. And so if people need a way to make this work, we'll make it work.
before we end, who would you consider your ideal client? Because
Hmm.
sometimes people don't know who I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
Well, first of all, I think it's people who recognize that there's another way. Um, People often come to me because they're stuck in one place or the other. I'm so emotional and I can't figure out what to do with all these feelings. Or I'm so busy all the time and I can't figure out why. Or I'm burning out because I don't have any motivation. Or even I've had people come, I've released responsibility for everything to a higher power. And so now I feel like I have nothing to do on earth, which is, either way, you're stuck somewhere. So I
Yeah,
think people who
absolutely.
recognize that they're kind of stuck in one
Stuck.
mode of life are good. It's just a good first question. How can I help you get to a place of balance where we're not going to deny or judge those things? We're going to start integrating how much amazing support there is for you right in your own in your own mind, let alone in the community that we build in the community in which you live.
Wow, David, thank you so much for sharing what you do and how you do it. And it's been a great conversation.
I
And
Yeah, I've enjoyed myself, and as you can see, I'm pretty
I
excited
know
about
you're
this
very
sort of stuff.
passionate. I
So
love the energy.
yeah, yeah.
And just want to say to the audience, thank you so much for listening. If you feel like this episode has touched your heart, reach out to David. His information will be in a link, and just inquire about it. Call him, see how it works, and see how it fits your life if you feel stuck. And if you feel like someone else needs to hear it, please do share, comment, and subscribe because I always have amazing people on. So I just want to say happy Monday and have a fantastic day. It's your time to shine. Your journey to chart. Coach Rice wisdom will heal every heart. So join us now. Let's make life suffice. Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice.